Good to be back. And happy Easter. We went through a lot of the Lenten journey together in my 4 weeks being here, and I didn't get a chance to say happy Easter to you, so I'm saying it now. We're still in Easter tide, so it still works. So happy Easter. Title of this sermon is, if it's in your bulletin, What's Love Got to Do with It? Remember Aretha Franklin? I won't sing it. I promise. It's an awesome song, right? What's your favorite love song? Have a favorite love song? We're that romantic, huh? Sir? Oh, wow. Any other favorite love songs? Yes. Okay, thank you. I guess yes. Perfect. Thank you. I guess we're too young out there to remember, love me tender, love me true. Yes, sir. All you need is love. Bum, bum, ba-da-da. Yeah. I got to see the Beatles in Shea Stadium. It was kind of awesome. Enjoyed doing that back in the day. 1 Corinthians 13. How many of us have used that in our wedding? In the wedding? Yeah. It's a favorite. And did you notice, I don't know if you noticed, but there are a lot of love is, and there are a lot of love is not. And I don't know if you counted them. Susan and I did. But there's more love is not than there is love is. And I think that that's pretty interesting. I used to do Camp Manidokin for 39 years. And one year the whole theme was based on love. We had T-shirts that were made. It had little bears on the front. It said, love bears. Then on the back it said, all things. Love bears all things. Can we read that? You're not impressed with all that, I can tell. It's okay, I'll move on to the next section. One of the things I've been doing lately is not only doing the love chapter in weddings, but I've been using that second paragraph in some funerals. Since I've retired, I am honored to do a lot of funerals. I'm on the list of 5 or 6 funeral homes in and around the Annapolis area. And whenever there's a family that doesn't go to church, but they want a pastor, my phone rings. And after meeting with the family several times and trying to get the service together, a good celebration, sometimes I'll use the second paragraph of the love chapter when it says, now I see in a mirror dimly, then I will see face to face. Now I'm known in part, then I will be fully known. And I truly believe that when we die and this phase of our life is over, and there is a new beginning, like it says in Revelations, and like it says in 2 Corinthians, the old has passed away, the new has come. I truly believe that then we will see face to face. And then we will be fully known. And I think that is so awesome that comes right out of the love chapter. I think that is really, really powerful. When I began ministry, I started in College Park. And then after 5 years, I got the call from my district superintendent. He said, Richard, we're going to send you to Cheltenham. Where in the world is Cheltenham? I had never heard of Cheltenham. Anybody here know of Cheltenham? You do. It's a little dot on Route 301 as you're heading south in the southern Maryland. Okay? In fact, it's such a dot that both city limit signs are on the same pole. Okay? But the sanctuary is beautiful. The sanctuary with spectacular stained glass windows. They had kerosene lanterns that we quickly switched over to electricity while I was there. We got to celebrate the 150th anniversary of the church while I was there, and that was very exciting. But there was a gentleman, there's a whole family there, named the Ellis family. And there were 4 brothers, and there were lots of children, lots of grandchildren. And Kenny Ellis was the patriarch. He was the gentleman who had lived there all of his life. He was a farmer. He loved to farm the area right across Route 301. But he also loved to sing. There was an Ellis quartet, and all of his sons and all of his family were in the Cheltenham choir. But he also loved baseball. And he coached the Little League baseball teams in Upper Marlboro and in Cheltenham and in Waldorf. Well, Kenny, being a farmer and not wearing a hat, wound up getting cancer on his ears. And that cancer spread and spread and spread. And so he was dying. And I'd go to the little grocery store that had the post office there, and I'd go to check the mail of the church and check my own mail. And people would come up to me and say, how's Mr. Ellis doing? You know, we just loved Mr. Ellis. We loved listening to him sing. We loved listening to his quartet sing. We loved it when he coached our boys in Little League baseball. He was such a great coach. We just loved Coach Ellis so much. And my response is, did you ever tell him? No. Go tell him today. I don't think I can do that. You just told me. Go tell him what you just told me. It took me a while, but I had to talk and finally convince his choir, the choir of the church, to go and practice at Kenny's house. They had a piano there. And they would practice at Kenny's house. They would greet him before and afterwards. He'd have tears coming down his eyes, hearing them sing. Go and tell him. Elizabeth Kubler-Ross wrote an amazing book on death and dying. And in that book, she writes, please don't send me flowers after I'm dead. Go tell him. What is this thing called love? In the Old Testament, there's a word, a root word, about love. It's Ahab, A-H-E-B, Ahab. It's also pronounced chesed or hesed. It's over 200 times in the Old Testament. People go, ooh, I thought the Old Testament was a vengeful God telling us to kill everybody. Ooh, ooh, ooh. You mean there was love for 200 times in the Old Testament? Yeah. And the love that's in the Old Testament from God is a love that's loving kindness. It's a love that is loyal. It's a love that is forgiving. It's a love that is attached to the nation of Israel. And it's a love that has to do with tender mercies. You ever read the book Hosea? Hosea is about God, the marriage between God and Israel. And Israel keeps fleeing and committing adultery. And God keeps bringing her back. And Israel goes back to more idols and worshiping of other gods. And God brings her back. God sends her to the Babylonian exile, but brings her back. God sends her to Assyria, but brings her back. Connor, I'm ready. Hit me. Oh, can we see that? Can you all see that? In the New Testament, most of it was written in Greek. There are these words for love. Now, to Americans, to people in English, we have one word for love. It's a huge umbrella. Love. The Greeks have these words for love. Okay? And all of them are in the New Testament. Eros. Eros is romantic, has a little sexual overtone, but it's also egocentric. It also is, we love because I want to figure out what I can get out of it. What I'm getting out of it. Eros. Philios is a social love. How we take care and love our friends. Friends that we have over, friends that we do outdoor picnics with. It's that kind of social love. Philios. It might have been what the Beatles thought of. Instead of saying, they could have said, Philios, 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 da 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 da. How about family affection? When you kiss your kids goodnight, tuck them in, say prayers, kiss them on the head, that's Sturgo. Sturgo. So tonight when you do all that, you could say, I Sturgo you. Sleep well. Pleasant dreams. Sturgo. Philadelphia. Elton John sang that song. Philadelphia Freedom. I bet you know that song. It's love between brothers and sisters. Philadelphia. How many have brothers and sisters? I'm an only child, so I don't know what you're talking about. But love between brothers and sisters, Philadelphia. Philanthropia. The love for all of humanity. It's kindness. It's courtesy. It's about all of humanity. And a lot of times we get involved in that in the church when we're maybe doing a walk down at D.C. or maybe we're doing a special fundraiser like Megan is. It's for the love of humanity. And finally, agape. It's kind of the love that we've heard today in 1 John and in 1 Corinthians. God has this will of love. And the amazing thing about this will of love in agape is that it's characterized strictly by action, strictly by compassion. Compassion is different than pity. You've heard of the story of the Good Samaritan. Man's alongside the road, beaten. Methodist pastor walks by. He's got a trustees meeting or something. Well, maybe I'll pray for you. But compassion is about action. It's about the Good Samaritan getting off his horse, not only tending his wounds, but taking him into the inn, making sure he's okay there, telling the innkeeper, I will give you this amount of money, and if you spend any more, I will pay you more. That's compassion. That's love that has to do with action, that has to do with deeds. Agape. Connor, next one. Well, let's go into maybe a little more intense kind of love. Oh, that's just Greek. That's just Greek to me. There's a theologian of the 50s named H. Richard Niebuhr. He wrote about love. What is love all about? And this is what he wrote. Love is to be these attitudes and these actions. Now at the first service, I got accused of meddling a little bit. Okay, Rick, you're meddling now. The first one is rejoicing. Rejoicing over the existence of the beloved. Rejoicing over their existence. The second one is that you desire that they be rather than not be. It's an utter desire that they be rather than not be. It's longing for their presence when they are absent. Yearning and hungering and longing for their presence when they are not there with you. It's happiness at the very thought of them. Feeling a sense of great rejoicing at the very thought of them. And here's where it gets a little tougher. It's profound satisfaction over everything that makes them great and glorious. Profound satisfaction and joy over everything that makes them great and glorious. Rejoicing. The next one is gratitude. Being thankful for the existence of your loved one and having a sense of wonder over the gift of them in your life. A sense of wonder that God has given you this gift in your life of what that person is all about. Wow. It is not jealous or seeking to match the gift to what I want it to be. I want you to be this, 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 and this. And if you're not this, 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 and this, or if you don't do this, 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 and this, I'm not very grateful. This is my favorite one. Reverence. Anybody here remember the prophet from Khalil Gibran? Too young, huh? The Prophet was a book written by Khalil Gibran in the 50s and 60s. A lot of us used that in our weddings back in the day. In the Prophet, he said, he quotes about love, and he quotes about marriage. He said, let there be spaces in your togetherness. Be together, but let there be spaces in your togetherness. That's what reverence is all about. Reverence keeps its distance even as it draws near. Keeps its distance even as it draws near. And then, here it comes. It does not seek to absorb or control. It does not seek to absorb or control. It rejoices in the otherness of the person. We love them for who they are and not seek to refashion them to a replica of myself or a replica of my own self-advancement. Well, I need you to do this so I can be better. I need you to do this, this, and this because it makes me look better. Love is and seeks knowledge for the sake of rejoicing and wonder. For the sake of rejoicing and wonder. And finally, there's an element of holy awe. To be in awe. To have deep respect. To have a sense of awe for that person. And another tough one. A profound unwillingness to violate the integrity of the other. A profound unwillingness to violate the integrity of the other. Wow. You ever read the news lately? Have you listened to the news lately? A sense of holy awe. And finally, loyalty. Loyalty. To be loyal. To have the will to make the other one great. My intention is to make you great. It's not about me. It's about making you great. To respect and allow the causes of the other, even if it's not your own causes. Now, Susan and I go to the polling places every time we vote. We usually hold hands. We stand in line. We hold hands. We go and we vote. And we come back out. We hold hands. And we go to the car. We absolutely know we've canceled each other's vote out. I mean, that's a given. Well, who did you vote for? No, who I voted for. Well, but there's still a loyalty. We can still care for one another deeply, even though We don't necessarily have each other's causes. If you don't believe this, this, and this, I'm not going to love you anymore. If you don't do it my way or this way, we're done. We're history. And it's a profound sense of making sure that I am harmed and not the other. If it comes to that, you will not be harmed. I would rather be harmed. And there's a lot of heroic stories about all of that. That's what loyalty is all about. Rejoicing, gratitude, reverence, and loyalty. What do you think? Think maybe we could use some of these in wedding vows? To have and to hold from this day forward, for better, for worse, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health, to love and to cherish until death do us part. I've done 49 years of weddings. So we say these vows, and sometimes I feel like we can push our navel and out comes the vows. Da 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 da. But suppose we were to say some of this. I will not violate your integrity. Something to think about. We just sang a little song. Thank you, Randy, for picking that one. We sang a song about the Shema. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul, mind, and strength. Deuteronomy 6:4. Lawyer came up to Jesus and said, what is the greatest commandment? He always answers a question like that with a question. Love the Lord your God with all your heart and soul, mind, and strength. That's great. Then love your neighbor as yourself. Oh, wait a minute. Excuse me? Okay, who's my neighbor? But what Jesus is telling us throughout, and especially in the Gospel of John, in that first letter of John, is that love of God and love to neighbor cannot and must not be separated. It cannot and must not be separated. In fact, love to one another is totally dependent upon our love to God. And just listen to the quotes that Jesus has. We love because God first loved us. We just read that, right? And people will know that you are my disciples by the way you love one another. That's pretty clear. People will know that you are my disciples by the way you love one another. We love because God first loved us. We don't love in order to get God's love. That's works righteousness. That's trying to earn your way in. No. We love because God first loved us. You cannot separate the love of God and the love to one another. If you try to do that, you're going to be in trouble with the book of James. You're going to be in trouble with the letters of John. And John's very quickly says, you will be a liar. If you say you love God and don't love your fellow man, you're a liar. That's pretty intense stuff. You are lying. Paul says love is the badge that we now wear. For the Israelites, it was circumcision. Circumcision was the seal that you are an Israelite. Thank God that's changed. But for Paul, it's loving one another. Christians are recognized by the way they love one another. Christians are recognized as the children of God by the way we care for one another. And now we're in Eastertide. I firmly believe that if you're going to live as Easter people, if you are going to believe in the resurrection, you need to love each other. And that's the badge of the new age. It's a whole new age. Behold, the old has passed away. The new has come. When I first became a Christian, I was a Good Friday Christian. I was convinced by some folk that it was my sin that put Jesus on the cross. It was my guilt. And I would go to churches and I'd go to chapel at Western Maryland College, and sometimes I would sit there and cry and cry and cry because he died for Rick Gray. And then the dean of the chapel there, Ira Zepp, started having these Thursday night communion services. I went to every single one. It was just a very brief, informal service, and he'd see me there crying, crying, crying. Sometimes he'd come and shrug on my shoulder, or he'd tug on my ear. Rick. So this one semester we were in school during Holy Week and Easter. I went to that service. He gave out 3x5 cards to everyone there. There was about 20 people there. He said, okay, I want you to write your sinfulness, your sin, your guilt, anything that is keeping you from being joyful in Christ. And I had to ask for a lot of cards. One was not enough. So I wrote these down. He went up to the altar and he nailed them to the cross. At Western Maryland College's Little Baker Chapel, I don't know if you've been there, but go. We're holding a memorial service there next Sunday. It's my 50th reunion from college. They've asked me to do the memorial service in Little Baker Chapel, where I was converted from a Good Friday person to an Easter person. But he nailed them, all of my cards, to that cross. And I cried through the whole thing. But when I went to church on Easter Sunday, every single one of those cards was gone. Every single one. And he covered that cross with beautiful flowers, with rainbows, and butterflies. Butterflies. new life, new beginnings. The old has passed away. The new has come. I then became an Easter Christian because it says very clearly, the new age is here. A lot of times I read at these funeral services and Revelations, there will be no more tears. There'll be no more pain. There'll be no more darkness. There'll be no more suffering. There'll be no more crying. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. What's love got to do with it? It's exactly this. It's rejoicing, it's gratitude, it's reverence, it's loyalty. It's living in the new age. I trust and pray that you will find this kind of love in your journey, that you will begin to experience and wear the new badge of love. And you will live it for the person you love, and they will live it for you.